Hello everyone. Today I'd like to talk about the anime School Days. Now, I'd like to start out by saying that this video will be very spoiler heavy due to the nature of the ending. If you know, you know. So, if you've ever had any plans about giving this anime a watch, I suggest you come back to this video at a later date. But odds are, if you have heard anything about this anime, then you were probably already spoiled due to its infamous ending. But regardless, if you've seen the show or not, I'll be doing a brief overview of the plot and touching on some major moments of the show, so you have a better understanding of why this anime was so divisive and rarely discussed these days. This is another one of the first anime I'd ever seen, probably the third one. I have no recollection of how I discovered the show, and while it's by no means my favorite, I will never forget it due to just how much it shocked me back in the day when I first discovered it. I hate to admit it, but I actually got pretty invested in this anime the first time around when I watched it, and it really stuck with me. School Days is a drama and romance anime which I believe was mostly animated by the studio TNK, who is mostly popular for High School DxD, which I've heard from friends is basically big titty anime girls, the anime, so I may have to check that out one day. But regardless, School Days aired in the summer of 2007, and to my surprise, it was not an original series nor adapted from a manga, but adapted from a visual novel. I was looking into maybe playing the visual novel for the video, but to mostly complete the game it would take around 26 hours or so, and I decided against it. But I also feel I haven't played enough visual novels to really give one a fair assessment, besides The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, which is a fantastic game and a must play, and it's also free on Steam, so you should definitely give it a try. But yeah, the visual novel of School Days looks very impressive, with having fully animated cutscenes for its many different branching narrative paths, compared to most other visual novels, which are mostly comprised of static images and just text. But yeah, I really had no idea that this anime was based on a video game series with multiple games, that some of them seem to include some crossover characters from the show School Days. And they mostly didn't leave Japan though, but if you wanted to play School Days, you can give it a go on the PC platform. There was also a release on PS2 as well as PSP, and in Japan the PSP was a huge system for visual novels, but sadly the PS2 and PSP versions were only in Japanese and they weren't translated to English officially. The basic setup of the plot for School Days is as follows. A high school student, Makoto Ito, first notices Kotonoha Katsura at the start of the second semester freshman year. Immediately he becomes entranced by her beauty, but his bashfulness does not allow him to approach her, even though they ride the same train every day. Instead, he snaps a photo of her in secret and sets it as his cell phone's wallpaper, a charm apparently that, if kept under wraps, would supposedly help you realize your love. However, his classmate Sekai Sayonji spots the picture, but instead of ratting him out to her, she offers to help set him up with Kotonoha, going so far as to befriending her just for him. Thus, the trio begins a rather impromptu friendship. But School Days follows the lives of these three teenagers as they traverse the joys and hardships that come with being a high schooler, in a story alive with brimming with romance and melancholy. The tale of these three students will linger in memory long after the momentous conclusion. So yeah, it's pretty much just your typical love triangle plot with a name like School Days. You know, you really don't expect anything more than that, but I promise you the show is a lot more than it appears on the surface. But the show's first couple episodes play out exactly as it sounds, pretty much, with both of these two girls trying to win over the main character, Makoto. So yeah, it was a bit difficult rewatching this show from the beginning at least. A lot of the issues that I had with this anime stems from how the characters interact with the main character. He's very socially inept and only thinks about his wants and needs. He spends most of the time during the show gaslighting these two girls to do whatever he wants, and he only makes decisions based on if he can get his dick wet. I mean, the whole time of the show, this guy is in a relationship with Kotonoha, the one he initially had feelings for, and they barely know how to interact with each other for most of the beginning of the show, with them constantly just like apologizing to each other. But while most of that's going on, the girl who helped set them up, Sekai, she's trying to sneakily win over Makoto for herself, and she even goes as far as to offer him quote-unquote practice with her to help his relationship. And Makoto is just like, yeah, cool, Kotonoha isn't putting out, so yeah, this works. And yeah, I guess this is pretty realistic for a high schooler, probably, but this leads Makoto to having a change of heart and deciding to just keep spending more time with Sekai, even though Sekai, she knows this is the wrong move, and she has conflicting feelings about their affair, but she wants Makoto to cut off his relationship officially with Kotonoha, but he's too much of a pussy and just keeps avoiding it, or he'll like see her tits or something and just get flustered and won't bring up that they need to end the relationship, basically. But eventually Kotonoha finds out about the two's affair and is basically in denial and shock about the situation. Like she's trying to stay true to the initial relationship, and she believes that Makoto could do no wrong. And all the while, Kotonoha, she's just constantly being bullied by the other girls in the high school, because apparently most of them have feelings for the main character Makoto as well. So most of all these other girls eventually, one by one, start coming out and like confessing their love to Makoto, and he just starts having these random hookups with like every girl in class, almost just pouring himself out to any girl that will look his way, which is almost all of the girls introduced in the show, apparently. Like this is truly the Breaking Bad of anime, where we got to see Walter transform from a timid science teacher to the drug lord Heisenberg. In school days, we watch as the once shy Makoto, who could barely speak to a girl he had a crush on, turn into the school gigolo, banging pretty much every girl in his high school that we have been introduced to, but without the engrossing character development, suspenseful plot, and amazing side characters, of course. Yeah, you won't find any of that in school days. Yeah, this is where a lot of the issues in the show lie for me during this rewatch. It's a miracle that a single one of these girls even likes the main character the way they do, with how unlikable and just plain flat his character is. Like, I feel this leads back mostly to it being an adaptation of a visual novel game, where in the game it's supposed to literally be you making the decisions, the player. So the writers, I guess, just really didn't have much to work with in that regard. But in a review, I did read that for most of the game, in the visual novel, it constantly encourages the player and provides them with bad and unfaithful decisions regarding their relationships that they make. So they stay true to the game in that regard, but it really just feels like this guy lucks out and these hookups just happen out of nowhere, with the characters having little reasoning of liking the guy. But all in all, I just really dislike the self-insert character archetype found in most of these harem anime. But hey, if that's your thing, more power to you. Anyways, back to the story. Soon we see Makoto's days of pleasure soon come to an end when Sekai announces to him and their whole class that she's pregnant, and all Makoto has to say is, but we're still in school. Like, God, this guy is just pathetic. But holy shit, this is one of the funniest anime ever in like a dark comedy kind of way. I really do feel bad for these girls, especially Kotonoha, who Makoto has basically blocked during his entire spree of hookups. She's fully been aware of his cheating at this point, and is basically a hollow and broken person with no life in her eyes. Like, she's constantly sending messages to his blocked number, just hoping for the chance of them to get back together. And Makoto he's just fully unwilling to man up and take responsibility for the life of parenthood with Sekai, she's fully committed to having the child. And with the whole school aware of Sekai's pregnancy, all of the girls Makoto was hooking up with, they immediately stopped seeing him, leaving him in a newfound isolation and still pretty horny, I guess, because while wandering the streets, he just randomly reunites with his first love, Kotonoha, who was coincidentally like messaging him and waiting for his arrival. But yeah, she's basically just been in an almost zombie-like state, just hoping that their relationship will still work, going so far as to plan like a romantic Christmas getaway on a yacht for the two of them. But yeah, Makoto apologizes for his unfaithfulness, and Kotonoha just is happy to be reunited with the one she loves, basically, so they get back together. And it isn't too long until Sekai goes to visit Makoto, wanting further confirmation, on their plans of parenthood and this kid they're gonna have. And Makoto just completely blows her off. He even starts just like making out with Kotonoha right in front of her, and she just like kind of looks on in horror. It's a pretty funny scene. And after she leaves, he just like hits her up, sends her an email just like, hey, Kotonoha knows this really good abortion clinic, so get that taken care of. Obviously, this leaves Sekai she's just alone and devastated, so she later invites Makoto for one final meeting to discuss the child, and Makoto falls for her trap, basically, that she's set, and he's pretty much just expecting to, just discuss a breakup, and he's just like, hey, how was the abortion? But while he goes to make tea, while his back is turned, she just violently goes and stabs him with a kitchen knife, and she quickly makes her escape after. But not too long, Kotonoha arrives to Makoto's apartment to find his dead body just lying on the floor. And with little to no emotion, Kotonoha just looks on and knows what must be done. This all leads to the final Shakespearean confrontation between Sekai and Kotonoha on the top of the school roof, where they all used to spend their days as friends. But with Kotonoha arriving to the meeting with only a large blade and a mysterious bag, her intentions of avenging Makoto are pretty clear. But before Sekai can defend herself, she's just violently struck and taken down, and Kotonoha then viciously cuts open Sekai's womb, revealing her lie of the pregnancy and discovering that there was no child. And the anime just closes with Kotonoha finally taking that vacation on the yacht with Makoto's severed head, which was being carried in that mysterious bag on the rooftop. This is one of the most shocking ending to any anime that I've seen. It's truly a complete 180 in tone compared to the episodes leading up to it. Never did I expect this anime about the life and romance of high schoolers to take such a dark turn. Also, I learned in regards to the premiere of the last episode in Japan, at midnight on September 18th, 2007, the final episode of the TVK program, School Days, it was cancelled without notice, and a travelogue program showing castles and boats was shown instead, with the message, due to circumstances, the program has been changed. In fact, the day before the last episode was aired, a 16-year-old girl was murdered in Kyoto Prefecture, which led to the postponement and cancellation of the last episode because of it involved a similar murder scene to that had taken place. And yeah, upon my first time watching this anime, I had no idea what to think about what I had just witnessed, and I felt pretty empty, honestly. Like, needless to say, this show definitely scarred me in some ways when I was younger watching it, because I was more attached to the characters then, and man, it's just a brutal way to end the show. Just did not see it coming. But upon viewing it today, upon this rewatch, I had a bit of fun reliving this trauma, and man, it's so satisfying seeing the main character get what's coming to him. But the visual novel apparently is infamous for the many bad endings the player could receive if you made like these decisions, such as what was showcased in the show, just sleeping with every girl you come across. And I feel the showrunners they didn't want to just go with one of the boring like successful relationship storyline paths that you found in the visual novel. If you just stay honest and true with one girl, so they instead went with a more chaotic showcase of what's capable in the game, and they probably had a bit more fun making the show because of that, and it certainly made it stand out and become one of the most memorable anime that I've ever seen. Yeah, School Days is the definition of watching a car crash that you just can't look away from. It's honestly pretty boring on a second watch in the beginning, just because you kind of know, I already knew what was going to happen, but the second half is just so bizarre and hilarious that I had to re-experience it. I would really only recommend this show if you're a fan of just like making fun of really bad anime, or if you know someone that you just like who like asks you for a good like anime recommendation, just tell them like, yeah, School Days or like Boku no Pico. And yeah, at the end of the day, I'm glad I got to relive this old trauma, and I'm happy I can laugh about it these days. But if you've ever given this anime a watch, I'd love to hear about your thoughts and your experience with it in the comments. But yeah, anyways, thanks for listening. See ya.